Whoa, guys, Yellowstone, hidden just 3.8 kilometers beneath one of the world's most famous national park, lies a volatile secret. Scientists have uncovered a critical layer inside the Yellowstone supervolcano, and it could decide whether the volcano stays quiet or, and here it comes, erupts catastrophically. So today we will look at this groundbreaking discovery, guys, that reveals Yellowstone's true inner workings, what is going on underneath and what it means for our future. The stability of dangerous volcanoes like Yellowstone, and especially like super volcanoes like Yellowstone and Campi Flegrei, for example, that I'm talking about a lot because it's rumbling dangerously close to the surface in Italy right now. So the stability of these dangerous volcanoes depends a lot on how deep their magma is stored, because how much space does the magma need or is left for the magma to break through the surface? And how do the gases inside this magma body underneath the surface behave? And at Yellowstone, we know that there is a magma reservoir underneath the caldera and that it's traveling into a certain direction. I've made a video about this. If you're interested in that, check out the video in the end screen. So scientists have gathered a lot of evidence for it over the years, but until recently they weren't exactly sure how deep the top of this magma reservoir really was or what is happening right above it. So now, and this is groundbreaking, new seismic imaging has provided this breakthrough. And you wonder, seismic imaging, and here comes the interesting thing, these scientists have created earthquakes in order to get these images. They used controlled source seismic waves, and they found a sharp reflective layer about 3.8 kilometers beneath the northeastern part of the Yellowstone caldera. Wow, guys. So that marks the top of the magma reservoir. And we need to speak about the top. I'll explain this to you in a second. But let's talk about the findings. So at such shallow depth, it's very shallow, magma is under lower pressure. So that makes gases start to separate from the magma and exsolve basically from the magma. And that is forming bubbles. And these bubbles can collect at the top of this magma reservoir. And normally we can see that this process is happening inside active volcanic systems. So it's kind of a black box for us. We don't know. But at Yellowstone, scientists were able to detect it, guys. Wow. And I think we definitely need to do this at Campi Flegrei. And they're doing something similar right now. There's a new study out. I have just released a video about this. Check this also out in the end screen. So they have measured waves that go through the underground, P waves and P to S wave reflections, bouncing off the sharp boundary that is there. And the data shows that at the very top of the magma reservoir, it contains a mix of how it's called supercritical fluid and magma. So now you might wonder, whoa, if the magma is so close to the surface, will we see an eruption? So that mix sits in like pore spaces of a low shear velocity layer at a depth between 3 and 8 kilometers deep. And that has already been seen in earlier seismic studies. But we get to the part that is groundbreaking. So the results that they're having right now suggest that some gas bubbles that are formed from the magma are staying trapped at the top of this magma reservoir. They can't get out. So in the meantime, fresh magma continues to rise from a mantle source that is rich in gases. It keeps rising. So it's important to understand bubbles can make a magma reservoir really unstable. And that sounds even more frightening. if we use the word unstable with the Yellowstone supervolcano, right, guys? So this is what's happening. When enough bubbles build up, it can trigger an eruption. Boof, there we are. So, whoa, what does that mean for Yellowstone? So calm down for a second, guys. Let me explain. So the Yellowstone reservoir, as the scientists are seeing it today, seems stable. Is it really? Nobody knows, but it looks like it is for now. So the amount of bubbles that they estimate at the top of this magma reservoir is actually lower than what is typically seen before big rhyolite eruptions. And now the police is coming because they're worried about Yellowstone and all the sirens that you probably hear in the background right now. So sorry for that. So it's lower, which is good. And another thing that is good news, guys, is if we look at Yellowstone's hydrothermal system, like the hot springs, the geysers, and the fumaroles, it shows high levels of gas release at the surface. So this means a lot of the gases are escaping before they can build up pressure underground. And based on the seismic data that they can gather for now and the dynamic modeling that they're conducting, the scientists believe the reservoir is mostly crystal rich with less than 30% porosity. So this kind of structure allows bubbles to escape through narrow channels. So they're not all trapped there. So that reduces the risk of this dangerous pressure buildup. So let's get into this when they talk about the top of the magma reservoir. We're not talking caprock layer that keeps the lid on, right? A layer of rocks dense. No, it's not a solid, hard rock that is sealing the magma. That is in a different area. So what they mean with the top of this is the uppermost part of the magma reservoir where magma still exists, but where it starts to mix with supercritical fluids like very hot gases, liquids, under extreme pressure. According to this new study, the top of this magma reservoir is a zone where magma is still present at a very shallow depth, but in small amounts, and it's intermixed with supercritical fluids, so that is not forming a solid rocklet or a full hard barrier. It's more like porous, partially molten layer where magma, gas, and fluids interact. The real hard caprock layer is above the top of this magma reservoir at even shallower depth, where the hydrothermal system sits, like hot rocks, water, geysers, fumaroles. So when scientists are saying the top of the magma reservoir, they mean the very upper edge where molten rock still exists, but it's already starting to cool and release gases. It's like a bubbly semi-molten zone, not a solid rock cap. And this is important to know about a guy like Yellowstone, because Yellowstone has long been known as one of the most dangerous volcanoes on Earth, a super volcano with the power to change the global climate if it erupts ever again and really cause a lot of destruction in North America for sure. And we know that for decades already, scientists have gathered evidence of a magma reservoir that is sitting beneath the Yellowstone caldera. They're just recently learning more details, what is really happening with the magma. Because before it was really a guessing game. It still is, but it's getting better. Because until recently, they didn't even know where the top, we just talked about this, of this magma reservoir was, or what was happening just above it. So now, by using this cutting-edge seismic imaging, researchers have made an absolute breakthrough discovery when they found this sharp reflective boundary at a depth of 3.8 kilometers beneath the northeastern part of the caldera. And we know, I've said it in my last video, that the magma is traveling underground to the northeast. And scientists in another study determined this area as a new potential area for an eruption. So not the old area anymore. So should this thing erupt, the northeast is the area that we need to watch critically. And this boundary, this reflective boundary that they discovered, that marks the top of this magma reservoir. I explained just what the top is. And also it explains what's above it. And that isn't what many expected. Let's imagine we have a large sealed soda bottle, dark liquid inside, no bubbles seen. As the gas is dissolved in the liquid, hidden under pressure, that's what magma looks like deep inside the earth. And if you open the soda bottle, bubbles are rapidly forming and rising. And that's exactly what happens near the top of a magma reservoir. When pressure drops, gases come out of the magma and they form these bubbles. And if these bubbles accumulate faster than they can escape, they can increase pressure inside the magma reservoir. And then if enough pressure builds, it can fracture the rocks above and then lead to an eruption. So is Yellowstone really releasing pressure? And how is it doing this? For now, yes, as I said, it seems stable because most of the gases that separate from the magma are escaping into the hydrothermal system on top. And then we see the hot spring, the geysers, and the fumaroles. So there is not much dangerous gas buildup underground right now, it seems. And the hydrothermal system is kind of acting like a safety valve. And what does that mean? I mentioned it before that the dynamic models that they conducted and the seismic imaging show that the magma at the top of the reservoir is crystal rich with less than 30% melt. So that means that there are narrow channels where gas bubbles can migrate upwards without causing a massive pressure buildup. So at Yellowstone today, the bubbly soda is venting safely through cracks instead of exploding. So the scientists basically call that they discovered a magmatic lid that is sitting above the main magma body. And this is the lid that contains the superficial fluids and these small amounts of molten rock. And that's the natural barrier, basically cushioning the magma below and preventing sudden eruptions. And we have to talk about the method, how they achieved this discovery when they used this method calling seismic reflection images. It's like similar how oil companies look for petroleum underground. So they're sending controlled shock waves into the ground and then they measure the echoes. They mapped the underground structures with incredible precision with this method. And that's amazing. And what is interesting, because if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you know I'm reporting a lot about the other supervolcano Campi Flegrei that seems to be rumbling in a way more dangerous phase than Yellowstone. But the whole world seems to worry about Yellowstone. Well, you should worry about Campi Flegrei. So did they compare this? And that's interesting. The scientists indeed did also compare their results with other volcanoes like Campi Flegrei in Italy, like this huge caldera volcano that is showing signs of unrest. So at both sites, the presence of gas-rich bubbly upper zones could either prevent eruptions by releasing pressure or trigger eruptions if gases are trapped. So the key right now is whether the gas finds escape path or builds up dangerously. So at Yellowstone, so far, the evidence points to an efficient gas escape, meaning low eruption risk for now. That's good. But what could change this? We know volcanoes. When we think it's doing that, the volcano says, hold my beer. We've seen this in Iceland with that volcanic system that we've been watching together for more than 1.5 years. So it could change. The scientists believe that while Yellowstone is stable today, things could change if more magma starts rising into the reservoir, adding new gases and heat, more stress, of course, or it could seal the escape routes. If sealing of these routes is happening, that would trap the gases underground. Or if the hydrothermal systems weaken and stop venting gas efficiently, if they're clogging up. So even though these changes are not happening right now, Yellowstone is a dynamic system and it evolves over thousands of years. So what is this technology? Because now you might say, oh, creating earthquakes at Yellowstone isn't that dangerous. Can't that lead to an eruption? Well, let's have a look at this groundbreaking technology. So they're creating crucial information for understanding the potential perils this volcanic feature poses. And the view has completely changed with this new research from seismologists that have conducted the study at the University of Utah and the University of New Mexico. They have used hundreds of portable seismometers, you see a picture here, and a mechanical vibration source to render 2D seismic reflection images of the ground beneath the Yellowstone caldera. So these are microseismic vibrations, and you can also see the truck that they've been using to do that. So these artificial waves, by using them, they were able to determine where that top is at like 12,500 feet depth, 3.8 kilometers. And what the authors of the study are telling us is that the depth where they found the top of the magma chamber of the 3.8 kilometers, 12,500 feet, is important. A research associate professor of geology and geophysics and the chief seismologist for the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory said, his name is Jamie Farrell, he's been a co-author of the study. He says, quote, "We know what pressures are going to be and how bubbles are going to come out of the magma. And one thing that makes these eruptions so devastating is that if gases are trapped, they become very explosive as they decompress. When the magma rises from the deeper crust, volatile materials such as CO2 and H2O exsolve from the melt. Due to their buoyancy, they tend to accumulate at the top of the magma chamber," he said. "But if there's a channel, they can escape to the surface." And Yellowstone has blown catastrophically 630,000 years ago, and many are wondering if it's getting ready for another eruption. And for now, such fears are unwarranted, and the new findings are further evidence of that. Good news. Of course, at Yellowstone, they have a lot of fixed seismograph stations that oversee a network of all these seismometers, and they do monitor Yellowstone's frequent earthquakes. There's lots of earthquakes at Yellowstone, and the seismic waves from these natural earthquakes have long helped the scientists to characterize the magma chamber, like similar to the way of CT scans, like image tissue inside of the human body. But the problem is the representations have been blurry, but now they're more clear. They have achieved greater resolution in this new study. They have deployed this array of 650 portable geophones along Yellowstone National Park's roads at 100 to 150 meter intervals. So instead of waiting for natural earthquakes to happen, they brought in a vibro-size truck. That's the truck you see in the picture. So This is typically used in oil and gas exploration to create images of subsurface formations and deposits. So what the scientists are saying, quote, in a sense, we're causing our own earthquakes and we record all that data on the seismometers. And since we put so many seismometers out, we can get a higher resolution image of the subsurface. And the team has vibrated the ground at 110 locations, delivering 20 treatments lasting 40 seconds each. So also longer than most natural microseismic earthquakes that are happening there. So these seismic waves propagate in two forms, known as S waves and P waves. So they travel at different speeds and they behave differently when they strike the molten rock, the magma. So by leveraging these properties of these waves, the researchers were able to locate the top of the chamber and determined that 86% of the upper portion is solid rock with pore spaces comprising the remaining 14%. And these pore spaces are about half filled with molten material and half with volatile gases and liquid. The researchers say that helps us understand more about the heat engine that is powering Yellowstone and how the magma, the melt, is distributed within the supervolcano. And that can have ramifications for how we perceive the volcanic hazard. And they're further saying, quote, Yellowstone in many ways is a laboratory volcano. And what we learn at Yellowstone can be used to better understand volcanoes in other parts of the world that are a lot more active, but harder to study. And examples might be Campi Flegrei in Italy or Santorini in Greece. They've both been rumbling, and it would be crucial to learn more about what's going on. And a lot of them are submarine, right? That's a problem. I mean, these scientists are linking recent breakthroughs in seismic imaging to advances in digital cameras that have enabled vast leaps in photographic resolution. And prior studies have relied on natural seismic events, pictured the magma chamber as an amorphous blob beneath Yellowstone. Now it's coming into a sharper focus with the help of these artificially generated seismic waves. And guys, I cannot wait until we see more of that in other volcanoes. But also, I've just released a video, CT scan, something similar at Campi Flegrei. The scientists here further said about their findings, quote, over the years, different techniques have used the older data. And then there have been new data collection efforts like the one that geoscientists from Utah and New Mexico that have allowed for increased resolution. So similar techniques are being used in other places where you put out huge numbers of seismometers and then you record both the background earthquakes and you make your own seismic energy, which allows you to target specific things. And these developments are allowing us to see into volcanoes in just really unprecedented ways. So the good thing is they have a lot of seismographs in place to detect earthquakes and small changes. They have GPS stations to measure ground uplift, gas sensors to measure emissions, thermal cameras to spot heat changes. But we were speaking about the top of the magma reservoir, and that is a game changer, what they found there. And why is it a game changer? This discovery, where they were imaging the top of the magma reservoir, is a scientific game changer because it gives a real-time insight into how the Yellowstone supervolcano seems to regulate itself, keeps itself under control. It shows us that gas behavior, not just magma movement, plays a very critical role in eruption dynamics. And it helps compare Yellowstone to other calderas worldwide that might be less stable. And before, we could only guess, where is this happening? Where are the gas bubbles separating from the magma? But now we can see it happening. So this really, guys, this dramatically improves the forecasting, not just for Yellowstone, but for other supervolcanoes globally. So yeah, this discovery, of course, it paints the picture of a very complex structure, one of a lot of danger, but also of resilience. So for now, nature's safety valves are working perfectly at Yellowstone, allowing gases to escape peacefully, more or less. We've seen some phreatic eruptions that destroyed the bridges and people were fleeing just last year, but kind of peacefully through the vibrant landscape that we all love so much. It's absolutely beautiful. But the story of Yellowstone is far from over, guys. Never forget that. So the secrets of Yellowstone are still being revealed. We still don't know everything. We know just a little bit. So they're revealing the mysteries layer by layer just beneath our feet. So if that was of interest for you, you should really watch the other video about Yellowstone and of course about Campi Flegrei. So best if you subscribe, if you like this video, become a regular viewer, join our group of volcano enthusiasts. And if you want to support the channel, there's links in the description under this video. I have a Buy Me a Coffee site /Silky, buymeacoffee.com. And of course, you can support the channel with supers and with a monthly membership, a supporting membership, and you're getting behind the scenes videos and private stuff from me for that. And thanks for watching, guys, and stay interested. Click the end screen. I see you very soon. Bye bye.